there's a pattern. I could describe the pattern, but there's a pattern that happens over and over again, and we're in a particular spot in the pattern. And then to understand it, not just because it happened before, but to understand mechanistically how it happens, and then one has a sense of how to deal with it. Pandemics come along occasionally, but anything that's important. Let me say the three most important circumstances that existed before we had the downturn, which was caused by a pandemic, but any downturn would have produced the same results. The three most important things that are happening in the world now are that we're at the end, late in a long-term debt cycle in which central banks cannot control monetary policy the same way. They can't lower interest rates. They can't get money to a lot of people who need the money in the traditional way. So just like in 1929 to 1932, there was a debt crisis that came as a result of an excessive amount of debt in the boom years. And then when you have that in 1932, we hit zero interest rates. And when they hit zero interest rates in 32, like in 2008, central bank prints money and buys financial assets. The central government, and also companies and individuals, don't have the capacity to create money. So the central government has the right to determine they can tax people, they can get money from people, and they can spend money on whatever they want to spend money on. But they don't have the right to print money and create money and credit like the central bank does. Central bank is the Federal Reserve. Similarly, the Federal Reserve does not have the right to spend money and determine how it's spent. That's for Congress. The important thing to know about this crisis, and that it happened in the 1930s, is that in order to get the checks that we're needing, a lot of people, a lot of companies need checks. Now, where will those checks come from? So there'll be checks from the government. The type of support we're going to receive is two types of support. Where's all this money come from? So the government, when they say, I'm going to pay more for unemployment insurance, or I'm going to give you a loan for a small business, or so on, where did they get the money from? Well, they either tax it, but if they tax it, that's bad. So the government, they can borrow it. That's what a deficit is. The government runs a deficit. And then the question is, who's going to borrow it when everybody's financially strapped? And the Federal Reserve says they have the power to print money, and they will say, I will borrow it and I will lend you the money. So the Federal Reserve is lending the money, and it is also lending others the money. Wonderful things, the most important things, can be obtained. And so for many of you, I think if you look at that and you budget for that, I'm seeing a number of people who are going broke. And I've watched this over many years. And really, it's just the adjustment process. Once they get to that point where, they get settled, they're fine. It's the ambiguity, it's the worry, it's the stress. So if you do that from the beginning and you have that played out in your head, then everything from there you can play with, and it's icing on the cake. So I want to emphasize, you can budget for that, you can look at that, find that scenario, find what that looks like so that you've got it down. Then you're safe. Once you've got safe, everything beyond that is luxury. Three big things on what I think work should be. Make your work and your passion the same thing, and make it economic. If it works, that you love your work, you'll probably be better at your work. And then you find the So you want those things, and then there's the economics of it. And so it could be anything from learning trades, whatever it may be. Education certainly does not have to be college. College is overemphasized. And having a good, productive career. When I watch these remarkable people who are on the front lines of dealing with this virus situation, and I look at them, some of the greatest people are the people who have the capabilities of doing certain things that have nothing to do with going to college, and they're on the front lines and they're contributing a lot. The society becomes a fairer society when there's equal opportunity for education, and also it becomes a more productive society because the opportunities, when extended throughout the whole population, means that you get more people on the basis of merit. Right now, that system is not operating in a good, effective way. For example, people in the top 40% of income will spend about 5 times as much money on their children's education than those in the bottom 60%. And that's neither fair nor productive. So I think that these types of questions are going to have to be examined by policymakers in a bipartisan way as we go through this. You know, it really starts with good total education, the good raising of children in terms of their actual formal education and their informal education, and then going out and having an environment of equal opportunity. There's always a path out there. You just don't happen to see the path now. So you have to find the path. If you find that path, and you can't find it alone, the way you find that path is to speak to other people, get many ideas by other people. And then, you have to keep yourself trial and error. You got to keep at it. Like when you're getting a job or getting a skill, it's a lot of trying. And so that requires a certain amount of discipline. And if you have a discipline problem, get help with the discipline problem. Have somebody kick you out of bed or whatever it is that you can get there. There is a path. You just don't see the right path at the moment.